Hey there, Betty.
Hi, Krista. How are you?
I am good. So, this is part of my video series called Coffee with Coaches with Krista Leone. And the purpose of this series is to dispel any myths and also answer any questions that anyone has ever had about coaches. Because there seems to be a lot of noise around what is a coach, what does a coach do, how to hire one, and what to expect. So I have decided to personally invite some of the best coaches out there that I know are legit.
Cool.
No one risks running into, on at least on my show, some coaches who aren't really giving the real deal. So you're one of them, Betty. So I'd like to introduce you and welcome you to my show. So thank you so much. This is Betty Kempa, everyone.
Hi, guys.
And her information will be at the end of the show so that you can reach out to her. But Betty is an executive career coach. So we're going to be talking about what that means. So Betty, how long have you been doing coaching? Tell us about yourself. Mm-hmm.
So I have been running my business for about 1.5 years now. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What brought you to coaching? Was it a calling, or was it
Oh my gosh.
thing, or
it's it's interesting. I started off in corporate communications. So I did that for about 10 years. And I always kind of felt stuck. I didn't really feel like that was my fit. I went from company to company thinking, oh, maybe it'll be the next company. And what I came to find out was that just wasn't my passion. And there were a lot of things about corporate communications and corporate politics that weren't really jiving with me. So that kind of led me through this real process of self-discovery. And one of my passions is reading and research. So I know you share that too, reading. So we're both like these book people. So we probably have all the same books. My shelves are lined with books on finding your passion. And I just had to do that for myself after so many years in a corporate job that was unfulfilling, so I could figure it out. And what I came to find out is when I was at my best was not in that corporate communications job. It was the in-between time. I was awesome at branding myself and interviewing, negotiating, and all those kind of things. And it was also when I was at my best helping others, was coaching them through that and coaching others through figuring out what their passions were. So it was a process for me to really figure out what was my own passion and what made me tick. And so it unfolded over a period of time. Yeah.
So traditionally, we're kind of brought up to think that we're supposed to figure that stuff out much earlier, right?
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
in high school, there's like the high school counselor, and then you have maybe a homeroom teacher, and then you have your parents. So you're supposed to kind of get that guidance. So ideally, the traditional way is that you pick a college major, or at least the direction, a track based on your strengths, and then you're happy and you graduate, and then you go on to have this fabulous career in that line. That's not reality, is it?
It isn't. And it's so funny you say that too, because, my major in college was communications. So it's like a case of the shoulds. I did what I thought I should do. I picked the major. I wanted to emulate my dad's corporate career. And so I did all the things I thought I should do without really understanding, how the combination of my personality, my strengths, my talents, my passions, I didn't really understand what, how to figure out what my passion was. I just did what I thought I should be doing. You're right. That's just not the way it works.
Right. So, I mean, now that you've become a coach, a lot of people are asking me, how do you define coaching? Like, what do you actually do for a person? Is it like really practical hands-on advice?
Yeah.
Do you follow a specific assessment process or a philosophy, or are you really just helping people in a different way, like with their strengths? I mean, tell us a little bit more about what's your coaching definition and philosophy?
Yeah, such a good question. And you're right, like there's a lot of confusion around what a coach is. So here's to me what a coach is. A coaching, just in and of itself, is really like a collaborative relationship between a coach and a client. And it's really designed to help the client grow to their full potential. So it's kind of like almost, if you want to compare it to an athlete who wouldn't consider training without the added insight, objective perspective, and support of their athletic coach. That's their person, right? That's helping them meet their goals. And so in the same sense, many of today's successful leaders and professionals, they're depending on the skills of a coach to help move their lives and their careers to the next level. So you can think about a coach as they're helping you close the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. And in doing that, it's a combination to me of inner work and outer work. So internally, a coach, we're helping you break through your assumptions, your interpretations, your limiting beliefs, your fears. We're doing all that inner work. And that's definitely how I coach. I start on the inside and then I work my way out. And then from there, it becomes results oriented. So now it's challenging you to achieve outer goals at the same time as that internal transformation. So a coach will help you create those strategies and action plans and really push you to accomplish more than you would do on your own, and hold you accountable to it.
Wow, that's such a major job, internal work as well as external performance-based work. Now, when someone comes to you, do you think that most of your clients are aware that they have internal work to do? Because when I think of like, oh, I need help, there's the whole spectrum of like major emotional issues. Then I would go to a therapist, right? Yeah. Or there's like, I want to get an executive job. I should I should find an executive recruiter. Oh, maybe I need a coach to help me with interviewing, or I need a resume coach. But do you think that typically clients are even acknowledging that they have self-limiting beliefs? Is that like a mainstream thing, or is that something that you teach them to identify?
That's a juicy question. I like that. So here's what I think. I don't think that, at least in my experience, people come to me saying, help me with my inner work, help me with, it's usually coming to me saying, I feel stuck in this job I'm in. I feel unfulfilled. I don't know what to do about it. And so, down the road, that will involve stuff like your LinkedIn profile, your resume, your interview skills. Yes, of course. But typically first, what we uncover, one of the first assessments I do with people, I call it a get unstuck assessment. It's figuring out, what are your perceptions? What are your beliefs? What's going on the inside that's keeping you stuck? Because the idea is, from a coaching perspective, we want to look on the inside as far as what is keeping you rooted and stuck. Why aren't you over there where you want to be? We got to get to the bottom of that and confront that in order for us to propel you forward. So to your point, people don't generally come to you like, let's look inside. It unfolds that way.
Wow. That's what I suspected. I mean, I didn't ever hear this term self-limiting beliefs until recently.
Yeah.
So it definitely isn't something we're brought up to know about. We hear about like what we're supposed to be doing in terms of interviewing or resume or, negotiation skills or speaking skills, but we never hear about the real juicy stuff, which is inside. And that makes a huge difference, right? I mean, that's
absolutely.
Once you can get rid of those blockages, then people can just make leaps and bounds of progress that they didn't even envision before, because they're not conscious of that mindset shift until you train them and guide them to it. So along those lines, is there a specific methodology that you follow? So you spoke of assessments. Do you follow like a way that you were trained following a specific training method, or is it something you've developed separately, or you've added on and combined both, or?
Yeah, that's a juicy question too. So I trained with IPEC. That's where I was certified. Of course, I'm going to, sing their praises. It's just a great coaching school. If anyone out there is looking to become a coach, I recommend IPEC. So it definitely, it was an 8-month intensive training program, and I definitely pulled a lot of what I use in my coaching package from IPEC. But for me, how I created my program, and every coach is different. For me, it's called the Career Bliss Coaching Program. It's 5 different steps to get you from point A to point B. So I did pull a lot from IPEC. I also pulled a lot from my reading and research. So my shelves of books, you know, I'm picking the best out of each thing that I know either helped me or helped my clients. And then also just based on my own experience. Like I am that gal, you know, I was there in that corporate gig where I felt stuck and unfulfilled. And, you know, I went through all these steps. So I based it on those three things. For me, you know, the first step is unpacking your story. So figuring out, you know, we look at your past and we figure out what's no longer working for you. What do you like? What do you not like about it? We do the Get Unstuck assessment, which is something I learned from IPEC. We look at your perceptions, your limiting beliefs. Step two, we clarify your vision. So now we know what you don't want. And we looked at your past. Now, what do you want? What's the vision? And what I tell people is, you know, oftentimes we get these jobs and we fit our lives into the nooks and crannies of our jobs. You know, we'll fit in the fitness and the family. And then to me, it's opposite. Create your life vision, and your career should be the bridge to get you to that life vision. So that's step two. And then step three, I call it clue gathering. And that's where I'm going to throw all my assessments at you. You know, we're going to do job function assessments, values assessments, personality. I do a business assessment that kicks out a 20-page report of career recommendations based on your interest and your motivation. So it's the juicy stuff. And then step four is where we take all that and we narrow it down. We bucket it into the nice to haves and the non-negotiables, right? Because some stuff it's like, oh, that's nice, but it's not a non-negotiable. Right. And then step five is the transition, then the nitty gritty, the external work. So that's the way I roll. And people, you'll notice that every coach has a different package or process that they use.
Wow, that sounds so comprehensive, because I think what you said for me is key. Like step two is where you're really figuring out how to custom design your life around the lifestyle that you actually want, not the opposite, not like fitting your life into the little peg holes around this job that may, you know, be inconveniencing you. And then the other thing is the strategy, the step five, because a lot of times people get stuck on that part. Like we know what we should be doing, right? So like once you've identified what you want, you're like, okay, I want to be in this executive position in marketing, and these are my desirable companies. Or I want to have, you know, non-negotiable would be like a really good, flexible work-life balance company that values family, right? So we kind of narrow it down with your help, but then to actually execute on how to get from that want to actually those opportunities, that's where the real hard work happens. You know, it's not over. It's hard to find out what you really want because we've been conditioned. But then that step five is like, I don't understand how a person could even do it without a coach, because no matter how much you've read or how, you know, you're trying to do all these things, you know, the coaching is just amazing, right? How much you can help a person.
Yeah. And to your point too, it's an objective perspective, right? It's like, it's one thing to hear, you know, your family, their advice, and you're sending out resumes and you're interviewing and you don't know why you're not getting the job, and your friends have their advice and your coworkers or your previous coworkers. But the coach is that objective person that has kind of been there, done it, and coached other people through it, and they know what works and what doesn't work. And they're really asking you the right questions to draw out of you what the real issue is and how to move forward.
Well, and also helping you not settle. I would say that the hardest part is that step five. So if I had just had a coach and you had really unleashed all my passions and put together this beautiful roadmap of my vision of what my ideal life looks like and what I should be non-negotiable focused on, but then the execution proved a lot of dead ends or a lot of failure. I very quickly fall back into like, well, that's not realistic. I'll just take what I can get.
Yep.
And a lot of people end up doing that. Or unfortunately, our loved ones aren't quite the best people to give career advice. So a lot of times you'll be like, well, you know, everyone's telling me that's not realistic and I shouldn't be so picky, or I should, you know, take a decent job. That was a good offer. Why am I being so difficult? And so without a good coach who keeps us focused on the end goal,
Yes.
it's easy to take all that beautiful work you've unleashed and just compromise.
Absolutely. I mean, you couldn't have said it better. And that's really why I start with the internal stuff, is because what I say to people is, you know, even if you figured out your dream role and you see the brass ring, you don't reach for it unless you have really ticked and tied all those beliefs, and you've confronted your fears, and you know you deserve it, and you know what your life vision looks like. And those things are important, so that you're right, when it gets really hard and when it becomes kind of a numbers game as far as who you're networking with, right? And the negotiating and the interviewing, it keeps your spirits up because you can see, you know, where you're moving towards, and the coach is there to keep, you know, pushing you forward with that.
Well, in that aspect, I mean, you know, when someone told me about coaching about a year and a half ago, I said, yeah, show me your six pack. Because for me, coaching was associated with sports and, you know, performance athletes and all that.
Yeah.
But in a way, that's exactly where you
Yes.
are so much like a real coach, meaning
Yeah.
you've harnessed all this power of this person's beautiful talent and their passion. But now, you know, they need you to keep going because it's a mental game. It's not their capabilities the problem. It's somebody who just tells them go for it and keep going, even
Yes.
when it starts getting tough, and even when there's setbacks or there's other voices out there that seem to be overpowering what you're trying to do, you know. So coaching is amazing, but along those lines, I wanted to give some people some realistic expectations. So first of all, how do you find a coach? Like, where would you advise someone who's like, uh-oh, I'm watching this and I think I need a coach based on what they're talking about. Sounds wonderful. Would you advise like LinkedIn to be a good place to look for a coach? Or like one of the certification websites, right? I think, do they have a directory that you can look up coaches?
Yeah, that's a good question too. ICF, International Coaching Federation, is a great place to start. I definitely would recommend LinkedIn. I mean, you and me especially can attest to how powerful LinkedIn is. And I would say to somebody that is considering getting a coach, get really clear to yourself on what you're hiring a coach for. You know, are you going after your dream career? Are you looking for relationship coaching, health coaching? Get clear on that, because there's a lot of different coaching specialties. So when you're doing your search, if you're clear on what, even you know, within career coaching, there's an interview coach, you know, so get clear on that so you know what you're looking for. Definitely use LinkedIn. You can just using the search function on LinkedIn ProFinder. You know, I'm a ProFinder coach as well, so I'll get clients through ProFinder.
ProFinder is amazing. I'm going to have to write an article about how to use ProFinder, because I recently realized that hardly anyone knows about it.
Really?
Yes, and I was thinking, like, you can really tailor in what, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's
I love ProFinder.
You know, to really like hone in on the specialty, like you said, within career coaching. Are you just looking for someone to create a quick resume, or are you looking like, I'm really stuck, like I feel a little bit like I may not be in the right career path. It was good up until now, but now I'm like not feeling it, or, you know, so you need a completely different type of coach for that.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about ProFinder too, is when I'll get an alert that somebody in the Bay Area needs a coach, and there will be a little blurb on what they're looking for. So I can make a decision from a coaching perspective. Do I offer that, or is that not really what my offerings are? So you will get 5 different coaches in the area that send you information back saying, hey, here are my services, you know, let's connect. And what I would say to someone looking for a coach is get on those complimentary coaching calls, because the best way is to talk to someone, and they're complimentary. Come with questions, ask those questions, figure out their style, because like we were talking about my package, everybody's got a different package and a process. And also it's a vibe thing. It's an energy thing. This is your person. So you want to feel like talking to them is inspiring and motivational, but get on those complimentary calls.
Well, you were hitting on the next point I was going to make, is that coaching is a tad bit like dating.
Yes.
Or interviewing, when you're sizing up, is this the company I want to work at? Or is this, do we have the same values? Do we speak the same language? Like, how's the communication? And the stronger the personal brand the coach has online, the better, because then I can easily follow their content. I can watch several of their videos, read their posts, maybe even read about their philosophy on their website. So the more they're putting out there, the easier it will be for me to pre-vet if I would sync with that coach. And then the call is just almost like the deal sealer,
There's so much. And you, I mean, you're one of the expert content marketers that I follow you as well. So you're, definitely to the choir as far as content marketing. So if somebody is looking for a coach, yes, get on their website, get on their blog, look at the articles they're writing, that they're sharing. You can get on. A lot of coaches have free downloads. Like I have a free guide defining your passion. So get on there and read their stuff, watch their videos, and to your point, it should be the last step is that comp call. You should already have a feel for the person.
Okay, so one of the big objections that I hear from my friends who are, pretty well-paid professionals, you'd be surprised that their biggest concern is money. Like, well, I can't afford a coach. I'm not a CEO. And what I want to dispel this myth, and I want to hear your opinion, is that coaching isn't just for executives.
Oh, yeah.
What I mean is, like, you should you should be ambitious. I mean, if you're going to take a coach, you don't want to be somebody who's like, you know what, I really just want to stay where I'm at. You want something, but you should be willing to invest in yourself to get there. You don't have to already be up at the top to hire a coach. Would you agree?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I work with all types of different people. I mean, these are not just CEO, I've worked with military veterans. I've worked with executive assistants. It's not what it's about. It's about having a burning desire to get support in achieving a goal that's important to you. It's wanting to become the best possible version of yourself. It's identifying your blind spots. It's getting a competitive advantage, no matter where you are, right? It's a coach gets you from point A to B faster than you could on your own. So that's really what it's all about, not your title.
Well, you just said something that I often tell people about coaching, is that we all know how to eat healthy and exercise to be in our fittest form, but it's so darn hard, right? I mean, our intelligence isn't what's holding us back. We know what to eat. We know to pick the vegetables over the candy bar. We know we should be working out a certain amount of time, but somehow we could use, all of us, some support, reminders, systems to hold us accountable, to keep us honest, and also just to push us forward. Because just like if I would go to work out at a gym, I'd probably get results, but if I would hire a personal trainer, I would get there 10 times faster.
Absolutely. It's funny you're using that analogy too. My fiance is a personal trainer, and he and I always joke at the end of our day about the similarities in career coaching, life coaching versus his form of coaching. It's all the same stuff, right? Like you know what you need to do, but then why aren't you doing it? And it's just the normal human condition, and that's what a coach is there for, is to help you dig deep and to get you there. So there's a lot of similarities.
Okay, so that brings me to a last question. Everybody, just like we did this analogy with personal training, weight loss, everyone wants fast results. So I've heard people say, well, even if I could afford a coach, I mean, I could probably splurge on 1 or 2 sessions.
Yeah.
So what is your thought? I know what that answer is going to be. It depends, like how much time it takes, but realistic. Let's be realistic. What is the commitment that someone should be making? I'm not talking about resume writing, which is a short, quick, specific thing. But if someone is trying to change some of their self-limiting beliefs or get unstuck and find their passion, what would be like a good realistic time window for them to think, okay, I should be working with a coach for, is it a month? Is it 6 months? Is that a good time? I mean,
yeah, that's a juicy question too. And I know the boring answer is that it depends on a lot of things. It depends on the client. It depends on the coach. It depends on the program. You know, I find that my topic and figuring out your passion job, it takes 10 sessions, you know, and typically I tend to see the sweet spot is between 9 and 12 sessions. So maybe over like 3 months. But you know, this is what I see in my world. In other coaching specialities, it depends what you're going after. It depends on the goal. But when it comes to limiting beliefs and the fears and the things that hold you back, you know, I wish that I could just give somebody a session and that poof, you know, it would be gone and woo, you know, I'm just going to go for it. And I wish I could give somebody that, but it does take time. And these little fears, they will resurface when, you know, maybe you're not even prepared for it too. Sometimes session 6, somebody will say, oh, wait a second, hold on, I'm feeling afraid again. So I would say 3 months is the sweet spot for my people, and it depends what you're looking for.
Okay, well, that's good to set kind of a more realistic time frame to people, that they need to invest in themselves, and that it also takes time. It's not an instant magic wand. No matter how amazing coach you are, it's a partnership. You need to also be ready to do the work. So let's finish with one last thing is, have you ever had to fire someone or figured out they were not the right fit because they weren't ready to put in the work? They felt they didn't trust you. You could feel the lack of trust. I mean,
Great question. Oh, I love these questions. I've never specifically fired someone, but the reason why is because I interview well. Meaning, when I'm on a comp call with somebody, you know, the prospective client is interviewing me, but I'm also interviewing you. I want to know if you're ready. I want to know on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being let's do this and 1 being I'm great where I'm at, where are you? Because if you're less than an 8, I'm probably not going to take you on as a client. I want to take on clients that are ready to do the work. So for that reason, I'm being selective with who I choose to bring on. But yeah, there could be situations like that if people aren't ready to do the work.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because someone who is now enjoying a massive success is Jensen Arrow, who is the author of the Badass series book. If no one watching this has heard of them, it's like you're living under a rock.
So good.
And she's in every Target store. She's even at Costco. I mean, you can find her books everywhere. How to be a badass. She has like the everyday badass, the good at money badass, like series. And one of the things she says in one of her books is that she went to some kind of a seminar and listened to an amazing coach and felt the energy. And then he said how much it would cost a coach, because he was already like a famous coach. So the price was even higher than averages. And she said, wow, it would have been nice to have that kind of money. And then she spent a whole year after that being miserable and going even further into problems, more financial issues. And after a year, guess what? She ended up hiring a coach for the same money.
Yeah.
And the only thing she lost was 1 year. And, you know, so that was her whole point, mentioning in the book, was like, what are you waiting for? Like, you may not be ready, but yet the only thing that you're going to realize is that you can't suppress it much longer, because it will come back. It's not going to heal on its own. If you're stuck, you're stuck, you know. So
good.
Yeah, so time is everything, right?
It is, absolutely. And you're right, it's an investment, and it's a different way of thinking, right? Like, we'll spend thousands to go on a vacation, but when it comes to investing in ourselves and our future and our goals and our dreams, what we deserve, we're hesitant. especially women sometimes. And we deserve it. You guys, you deserve it.
Well, it's funny you say that, because a lot of the women who need the most coaching are actually undervaluing themselves. So even though they may be spending on things they don't need, it's a way of compensating for their the inadequacies they feel in their personal and professional lives. But then it's also in their professional lives, you'll see that often they're the ones who are underpaid.
Yeah.
They're not asking for the raise. They're not promoting them.
Yes.
They're not getting the promotions because they need coaching. They need to figure out how to negotiate better and maybe brand themselves better, and maybe even get some training that they're lacking that could make a huge difference in their monetary value. And so there you go. So it's all a cycle in the end. What you invest now is going to actually pay itself off double later.
Bingo.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just not, I don't even work with you. I know you're a lovely coach, but I'm just such a big fan of coaching. And the goal of these videos is, I am biased. I really want people who need coaching to stop hesitating, stop being on the fence, and go out there and look on LinkedIn, do the ProFinder, go on the ICF website. There's also a coachinghub.us, which is an amazing site. So I want people to look for coaches and find that coach and do those discovery calls, which are totally free. And it's like you said, it's like a two-way interview to figure out if that coach is a good match for you, and then invest a little bit, see how it goes. So thank you so much for the call.
Thank you.
And keep putting out information. Between you and me, we'll spread the word that coaching is an amazing thing.
I love it.
Okay, thank you.